All right. We should be live. Hello, guys. So I actually looked at the stream title that we last had. The last time we did this was December.
December.
Yeah. So our irregular monthly podcast has skipped 3 months, 2 months.
Right.
That's not too bad, honestly. I knew something like this would eventually happen,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but 3 months is not terrible.
It's not
I
the
think
terrible.
that's
It's not the
reasonable.
worst.
Yeah.
And like, hear me out. A lot of us were busy with a few things. It doesn't look like it yet, but I have moved, or I'm starting the process of moving. My PC is currently still in Michigan though, so I am in Michigan currently. But the whole process should be done by May, and I'll be in the big city, I guess.
So Kyle, I'm curious, how much of the stuff in your office right there in Troy is actually going to be going to your studio?
Dude,
Because
like,
your studio
no.
doesn't have a lot.
Well, we have a lot of space, all right, but I don't anticipate bringing all of this. Um, Even like the wall decor, I'm like kind of hesitant to bring over because it's just like a lot of work, and I honestly don't really. If things go well in my life in the city, I don't really anticipate being in one spot the entire time. So every like yearly move is gonna just be annoying as hell if I have a lot of stuff. So the only thing that I really want to move over there is like my desk and then my stuff for my cat, I guess. And then I have like a bed and like furniture there already and a TV, which is nice. But some of that stuff might just go by the wayside. I might just like give it away before I move again. But yeah, gonna travel light outside of my desk. I think this thing goes wherever I go. So
I see.
yeah.
I'm gonna live that digital nomad life. I
Yeah,
see.
yeah, Yeah. I was honestly like considering not even moving my desk, and just like building like a new like ITX system. But the more I thought about it, it's like this thing like carries all of my life on me. So I can't really let go of it. Um, but yeah, that's my life update. That's why I've been gone. Also, I've been planning my next tournament. Um, Diamond Dust 2, which
Diamond Dust 2, yes.
yeah, not going
And it's,
super swimmingly, but we announced it like really early this year. We're at like hovering around 100 entrants right now. Our goal is like 300, so we'll
nice.
see. We'll see where that goes. You know,
Is
So
there what's the date that
what
you're
date?
projecting?
what dates? April 12th to 13th. Those are my
Oh
dates.
wow,
Yeah.
that's soon. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, that's gonna creep up pretty quickly.
Yeah, in a month. Yeah, yeah. A lot of stuff is happening. I mean, I'm going back to New York for the week, and then I'm going to Vancouver for another tournament to sort of bridge some recruiting to see if I can get more people to come to Diamond Dust. And then the tournament will happen like a week and a half later. So a lot of stuff, and I have to be back in Michigan to set up for it again. So that's yeah, been busy couple of months, and I have work, you know. So that's something. Um, but yeah, that's my excuse for why I haven't been around. What about you guys?
I
I've been here. I don't know.
yeah, like I don't know. I don't think I had a
Oh,
particular
was it
issue.
just
I think we
me?
just
All right, cool.
I think it just didn't happen. Like here,
It
okay,
just
you know what? Let me look through the
Well,
chat.
I think people's but I don't think there was one weekend where everybody
was
was
just
able to line
available.
up their schedules for the last 2 months.
So it looks like yeah, there
Yeah.
were a couple times it looks like three of us are free, but like not all of us. We just
hmm
Mm. Well, I don't exactly remember where we left off on. Did we go through everyone's three by threes? Do we want to talk about
No,
something
we
else?
went
oh
through like
no, dude, we have so much
there-
more.
we got through maybe a quarter
A quarter of like one
of
person's,
like
or like a quarter like a person?
quarter
Like,
of like all four of us maybe I think, or
oh
three out
shit.
of the four of us.
Oh
We definitely didn't
fuck.
even finish one of the three by threes for all of
No,
Dude.
us.
we didn't. I think everybody talked about either two or three games on each.
Yeah,
Fuck.
Yeah.
because we love to talk as a as we all know.
Do I have anything to talk about? I mean, I finished Metaphor. I don't know what the last thing I wanted to talk about was in terms of media. All right, let's go through the 3x3s then. I'm sure I'll think of something that did in the past couple months.
Yeah, I don't mind. I'm trying to think what. I mean, we definitely want to go through these eventually, so we might as well
Yes.
touch on them.
I don't even remember where
Um,
we left off, by the way. It's been way
okay,
too long.
we definitely we started talking about our gaming ones,
So I think we
but we didn't finish.
okay.
We were still doing it. So, um, I don't know who we left off on. Who wants to start? Let me remember what we even talked about. So let me look at yours, Kyle. I'm pretty sure you
We
talked
should
about. Okay, you talked about Persona. You talked about Hitman. You talked about Xenoblade, Smash, obviously.
I think I only talked about Smash actually at length.
Oh, maybe
Because
because I
I
talked
like
about
went over what like my 3x3 was, but I only talked
Then
about
Kyle did
Smash at length.
4 3x3s.
What's up?
What do you
Kyle
what?
did 4 3x3s.
Did I? Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
did. Yeah. I did
Yeah, you
Yeah, I wouldn't. Oh my
yeah,
God, it's
I
gonna be
did
like,
I did games, I did anime, I did game characters, and then I did anime characters.
yeah,
dang.
Kyle's like 2 years
Oh
ahead
my
of
God,
schedule.
that's crazy, dude. But
That's
how are we
how
gonna
long
get through all these?
I don't
Kyle's
know.
like two. Kyle's 2 years ahead of schedule because that's how long it's gonna take us to get to the anime one.
All right.
Oh
How about
God,
this? I'll try to go through like two
It's
of
very
the
optimistic.
games, two of the games that I haven't talked about
sure.
because I'm pretty sure I only
Why don't
talked about
we
Smash and I talked
do?
about that for like at least an hour.
Why don't we just do one person? Let one person do their entire 3x3 because I feel like it's weirdly broken up when. Or no, I don't know. I mean,
I feel
I
like
feel like
I don't want to like
we
hyper
tried
focus.
that, and it's like not as interesting,
Yeah, I mean
honestly.
I don't want to like hyper focus
really,
on like just one person's like whole thing, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
It's honestly more
what
interesting to do it one by one because we actually get like a chance to talk about each thing, which is the whole point
all
of
right,
do you
this.
guys
how
think
about
we
this?
could do two
We'll
people's entire 3x3s today?
no, shut up. All right, so here's what we're doing. All right, we'll do one
Why don't we?
each per. We'll do one per person. All right, we'll go around a circle. All right, we should be able to do that for 4 people, right? And then we'll also do another one if we have the time. Let's do that.
Another
Let's
three
just
by three?
No, as in like one
Oh,
game. How is
let's
this
oh.
do a
not
round.
easy to
Just
understand?
let's just do multiple
Because
rounds
by
and
the
just keep
time we
going.
get to the next one, I'm not going to remember what we have already, which ones we have already talked about.
Yeah, I don't
As
really
is
don't
the
remember
case
which
for the
games I
last
did.
one.
Oh my God,
How about we
that's
mark
such
it
a
down? All right. How about we mark it down?
yeah.
Yeah,
Just mark
We'll
it.
we'll just
You,
we'll
dude,
just
just take out a piece of paper and mark it. It's not that bad.
okay.
just put in the chat.
Yeah, exactly. All right. There we go. Yeah, this isn't too hard.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right.
I'll do one first, okay? Uh and then we'll go around the room, right?
Sick. All right. Let's do it.
Okay, so I am in between talking about two of them, between Xenoblade and Persona 3. Uh but I think I'll go with Persona, right? I think do all of us have like an entry of Persona on our list?
Probably.
Yeah.
Uh, yes.
I think this entry.
Wait. Yeah.
There's no
wait,
way
what's,
you
what,
don't, right?
hold on. Where's Evans? Hold on.
Scroll further up.
Pretty certain,
He definitely has Persona
yes,
4 or something.
but
Oh right, you have Treasure Map Storm. I remember talking about that.
Treasure Math Store. Oh yeah, we recorded gameplay of it. That was crazy.
Okay, yeah. Yes, we all have Persona. That's obvious. That was obvious. That was like gonna happen no matter what.
Yeah. I feel
Mhm.
like we can all collectively talk about that. But I guess I'll like share my experience with the series. So Persona is like anyone who like really it's hard to find like a JRPG series that like kind of like sticks around and like has like consistent levels of quality like Shin Megami Tensei has, and especially like the spin-off series Persona. Even like the historically best ones, like your Final Fantasies, generally dips down in like a certain type of quality. And I'm not gonna lie, I am a bit of a fraud. I have not played any of the Persona games or that many Shin Megami Tensei games outside of 3, 4, and 5. But it is a series near and dear to my heart for a lot of reasons. It's hard to find like a single player game that kind of like notches like a lot of people's interest. And like it sort of like brings people together, right? And the familiarity with like the Persona games and whatnot comes from this idea that like you're able to connect to people in different and thematic ways. And I have to put it on there not because I think they're just like fantastic games, but I also think that in general it has like made me like lifelong friends, you know. It's hard for me to imagine where we would be, all four of us would be, if we didn't like all decide to play like Persona 4 almost exactly at the same time. And like I remember sort of discovering the series kind of like inadvertently, right? Where I played Catherine. Anuj knows about that game. Very fun game. And I read the wiki page, and it said that Vincent had a cameo in this series called Persona, or this game called Persona 3 Portable. And I looked it up a little bit, and it was like more like popular than like some of Atlus's other games. And Atlus at the time, kind of like just like a relatively unknown company in the grand scheme of things. But you know, I tried different games that they put out. They put out a bunch of like the SMT games. They put out Devil Survivor on the DS. I played that for a bit, and eventually I got to playing Persona 4 on my PS Vita. Anyone who remembers that thing, this was like during a time where I was like buying duds of consoles over and over again. Like the PS Vita was like the third console I bought that was like kind of a flop. Like I bought the 3DS at $250. I bought the Wii U at $350, and then I bought the PS Vita for like another $250. So, and the Vita doesn't really have that many great games, and I knew like I mean I like playing some of Atlus's games. I tried out Persona 4 Golden because that was like the hype new release that came out for the console, and that game has like a lot of memories for me. If these guys know, I have like basically 7 save files on that thing. I've played it basically that number of times. There was this one of my first playthroughs was that I tried to use the starting persona, and I only used the starting persona the entire time, and that was like a humongous mistake because you're supposed to fuse it away for something better. But yeah, no, that was like how I got into the series, and then like tangentially, you know, I mean, I already knew Anuj at the time, and then like me and Akshay like connected, and in one of our classes because we both played the game, and then I gave the game to Evan. I gave him my PS Vita for I don't know how many times, and he played that while he was like in China as well, and yeah, I mean, like the rest is kind of history. Every single time there's like a new Persona release, I think that it's like within my interest to like, oh, I gotta play this game, you know? And it's like one of the only series that I really care about like platinuming too, like doing the stupid achievements and whatnot, because I've done it for so long. Every single title I've basically like platinumed in like basically a month or something. Persona 5 came out, I beat it in like a week and a half, and then I platinumed it the same month. Royal came out, basically did the same thing in like one playthrough. And yeah, I mean like you see Persona 3 on here, which is probably my pick for the best game in the series. But I flip flop between like 3 and 5 pretty often, and I think right now it's 3 because I mean I played 5 like 5 times, and I think the one hang up I have with it, and I've been like replaying 3 as well, is that the intro just takes forever. So it's not exactly the best replayable game, but it is very janky and very fun. And then 3, I think it's like a more tighter knit experience, especially the re-release. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I thank this game for like putting me on like an interest in like single player games, and also I thank it for being able to connect with other people through those interests. And I think I remember Evan saying this like one thing where like it feels like playing a Persona game feels like a multiplayer game because you're sharing that experience with everyone else, and it sort of like has become this like must play thing. It's not a question on like if we'll play it. It's like a question on like when we'll eventually get to it. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts, but
Yeah, it's always I'm always trying to think back of why was it that this particular series seems to resonate with me and also you guys so much more than a lot of other JRPGs or just RPGs in general I've played. I mean, because like I mean, I first of all, I'm glad you brought up the whole story about how the games kind of brought us together because that was very much like a huge part of our early high school experience was like us four coming together in a lot of ways, kind of because of our shared interest, but like this specific series was a huge catalyst for that. And like we would go on and on talking about these games. I know like Kyle and I we would banter about like which cast was better, the Persona 3 cast, Persona 4 cast, just like saying stupid stuff like that. And then of course like me letting a nudge borrow the game. And then he let me borrow Disgaea, and he was like, "Oh, this is gonna be the greatest game you ever played." And I'm just like, "Okay, cool, yeah. Why did you try this out?" And then like it just completely just blew him away. Um, and it's it's weird because like I mean I think it's a combination of a couple things. I mean obviously we can go on and on about why the game design is just very very good about how they combine they combine like obviously good RPG gameplay with the whole life simulation dating sim esque gameplay, which is a very unique combination at the time, especially compared to like any other RPG I played. Um, but I think there is something about just the whole high school setting, and it just kind of hit all of us at the right time in our lives because it was just literally all the games are just about people our age just trying to figure out the world in different ways and trying to kind of grapple with challenges in life in a way that like a teenager kind of would. Um, while also like and while also at the same time being a little bit of wish fulfillment for as any anime is, but not leaning too hard into it. It was like a balance of everything. It still had like really complex themes about all three of well 3, 4, and 5. They all had very complex themes about their respective uh, plots. Um, but yeah, it's just like it's something that I don't really think I've seen in like in any other game series, and Atlas just seems to understand. Um, they seem to understand how to tell these very compelling stories through this combination of RPG mechanics and life sim mechanics, and it just hit at the right moment and the right time, and now the series is kind of it's probably again it's like one of the only series I'm probably gonna like keep playing in the long term. And I'm sure it's the same with you guys, but yeah, I mean, is there anything about, I mean, would you like to see other games that are like this, or do you think this is kind of just like a unique sort of experience in itself?
I think it would be hard for other companies to sort of like make a game sort of like Persona without, how should I say this? I think a lot of games do borrow from like its concept. Like a lot of games like Fire Emblem Three Houses actually borrows like the calendar
Oh
system,
yeah.
right? And I think I mean like there's plenty of games that like try to like emulate Persona in like that sort of structure. In fact, Atlas has made its own Persona clone into a different game entirely. And
Yeah, yeah.
but my opinion is that like it's hard for me to sort of look at like the amount of work that goes into these games, and I mean literally every aspect of the game. Like the systems are like really refined in terms of like combat. They do a lot of, I wouldn't say great writing, but like very well developed character writing throughout like all of its like social aspects. And then I also think that there is a lot of like other accoutrements, right? Like you have great music, you have great voice acting, um, and then you also have random stuff like great menus for whatever reason, a UI that is
Yeah.
flat, like it's fast and clicky. Like I can't tell you how crazy it was. Like I went back to play Persona 3 because I was like bored one day. And I was like playing Monster Hunter before that. Monster Hunter menus are a fucking nightmare, man. Like they're really text heavy. It's hard to navigate. It takes forever to figure out how to invite your friends into like a party and like what quests can you do with each other. Anyways, I digress. The menuing in like Persona games, it's snappy, it's quick, it's flashy, right? Like those, that type of care that goes into like making like the presentation, the style of it, the small little things that Atlas like neatly puts in there to give the games its own like visual and like sound identity. Like even like the clicks of like pressing X, like that feels really, like it just feels really satisfying. It's hard for me to look at that and be like, this can be like duplicated in any sort of way, right? Because
Mm.
you can do like day-to-day sims, that's like no problem, right? Like many games do that, but can you like make it as like free flowing, and you can you make it like sort of in a manner where it feels satisfying to play, and then you combine that with like great voice acting, great music. I mean I can tell you this, every single like social aspect in Persona 3 is like completely voice acted. And that's like, do other companies have the resources or like really want to do that? I really don't know, right? So it's less of like, oh, do I want to see like more games like this, and more so like, do I believe that other people can make more games like this, you know? And
Mm.
for me, like, there's like a level of detail and polish that comes with like playing like a Persona game, right? That it's kind of taken for granted, but you sort of expect it. I played Final Fantasy like Rebirth, Seven Rebirth, earlier
Mm.
last year, right? And it just felt, everything was heavier, right? The weight of the menus, for some reason, it just felt heavier. Pressing X didn't feel satisfying. Um, Going around the world felt like I had like ankle weights on Cloud the entire time. Whereas like if I want to go from point A to point B, there's like a very robust fast forwarding system, or a fast travel system in Persona, right? It doesn't take me eons in order to like figure out who I need to talk to finish up the side quests or whatever. And the battles, man, like when you run in, you activate or you hit a shadow, and the menu pops up, and you have every single face button that has like every option available to you all at once. You don't have to scroll through menus to make something work. It just like right there, you snap, go. Like you can fast forward, you can auto run battles, you can like run through dungeons and whatnot. That whole speed of like playing Persona games is what makes it fun to replay, right? Because I don't want to be like hampered by uh aspects of like UI or like cutscenes or like dialogue that like really makes it so that like I have to experience everything over and over again. The active the act I don't know how to say it, like the actual game feel of Persona is just like unmatched. Like when you play a Persona game and then you go somewhere else, for some reason those little things suddenly like stick out to you. Like why is it so hard for me to identify any like sort of menu option to get what I want? Why is it so hard for me to travel from place to place? Why does pressing X feel less satisfying? I just don't know. I don't know how to like really capture that. Um and
Yeah, I
especially
think that's the biggest level. Like the polish, I think is. I mean, I agree with you. Like the polish is much better than any other game that I can think of. Actually, I think in terms of like snappiness, the only other thing I could think of is like honestly maybe like Pokemon menus, but like old Pokemon menus,
Old Pokemon.
like from like Emerald, where like it just reacts very instantly. And I totally agree with you on that point. I do think that I wouldn't say that's the main draw. I think that's like what keeps people. I think that's why people like it so much. Like maybe it's also a way to like keep people interested, but I don't think it's like I don't think that's necessarily the reason why it became so popular. It's definitely like it definitely like shows toward or contributes towards like the level of polish. But I think the at least I think the main things are like I mean obviously there's the school setting, right? That is one of the big reasons why
I was gonna say the
it
relatability.
could become so, it could become so popular. Yeah, I think like there's a reason why like half of all animes are high school based, right? Like 345 are all high school. Like that is the target demographic. Um, but also, I do think the system is the social system is like very unique. Like at least I don't know of other examples. Like maybe another game did it in the past, but I feel like this is one of the ones that like kind of pioneered it, where you have a moderate level of control, but you also there's still like an overarching storyline, which I think is like a good balance between an open world game, which I usually don't really like, versus a very linear type of game. Because like in a very linear game, you're sort of like you don't really feel like you have like you don't really make that many decisions, right? And then
Mhm.
like usually that doesn't really have too much of an impact on the final outcome. And like I do think honestly like from what I can remember, like there aren't it's not like there are too many different endings, for example, that you can get in Persona. But like it feels like the weight of each one of your actions matters a lot in the grand scheme of things. Even though like you could still end up in very similar places. I guess the different endings are like just being able to see the like the final ranks of like the completed stories for each of the characters, and that is the one of the main draws to like trying to min max everything. So there is that, but I do think is like it's a combination of the relatability and the well, I guess both of them sort of contribute to the relatability. The fact that like you get to make your own, you get to make the decisions, and then it's also just like a high school setting, which is like everyone can pretty much relate to that, even if they're no longer in high school.
Mhm.
Well, I will say that like as time has passed, that has become less of a draw for me. So there are times where like I don't feel like I haven't like I finished Persona 5. I still have to this day not finished Persona 5 Royal, which I need to, and then I still need to play Persona 3. Uh Part of like the draw of like the high school setting is not so much there. I think if anything, the draw for me now for Persona 5 is like the Tokyo setting, which is like
Mm.
Japan, you know? That's the but yeah.
I see.
Anyways.
I do think you're right. I think I also said this. I don't know if like you guys necessarily agree with me, but as we get older, some of the some of the hindsight things I have about high school and the decisions and choices I've made back then feel like less impactful as time went on goes on. And I think adults definitely have more nuance in their decision making and a lot of they have a lot to like learn and it's like a lot more significant the choices you make as an adult, which is why I think it's probably like due time and most likely they probably won't do it, that they move like on from the high school setting into like college or even as a working adult. But I mean, that's just my opinion. I think it'll just make for a more engaging game. There's just like more interesting decisions that you have to like make as an adult. And I know like Japan has this infatuation with high school and whatnot, but I think the reality is that it does get a little tiresome, and their audience does eventually grow up, you know. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
So I've thought about that quite a bit actually, about especially when it comes to anime, but also when it comes to these sorts of games. I actually do think that I mean, I guess I'm in two minds about this. Yeah, I suppose I do appreciate it when I do see a show or a game that focuses on, maybe slightly older individuals making decisions about their lives, obviously, because maybe I can relate to them more now, but also because it's another aspect of life that is maybe it's interesting to see more variety of a variety of aspects of life represented in media. It's just more interesting that way, especially in games. But honestly, I don't even think the relatability is even 50% of the reason why the high school setting works for these games. The reality is that high school is a very easy thing to gamify. So you have to understand when you're in school, you have a very strict structure of your schedule, of what you have to do every single day. You have very clear endpoints of what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to study and take tests. And then you're also in an environment that naturally pushes you to have character interactions with other people who are nearby in like forcified ways. And it's also being broken up by these scheduled events, like especially in these Japanese games, these cultural festivals and these trips and all that stuff,
This is
which
true.
everyone, especially the Japanese audience, can relate to, and it just kind of works in the setting. But all of these things are really great from a game design perspective because of all those things are naturally structured and gamified, so they can turn it into a game. Whereas if they just made this about adult life, it's a bit more difficult to turn that into a game. Like it's a lot more open ended about like what you're supposed to be doing every day, and like I guess you can have a job, but maybe have different jobs, and then like I don't know, and then like how you interact with other people. Like you don't have a structured way of interacting with the other characters in the game, and it's honestly just from a game design perspective very easy just to put it in high school, and have that be the main structure, and then building. And the reason why it works in Persona is that that's the main daily structure. And of course, what even works even better is that you also have the natural progression of the school year, where you start the game at the beginning of the school year, and then you end the game in this climax, a climax at the end of the school year. It just naturally works out that way. And then Persona 3 really emphasizes that. Um, but like beyond that, because they have the structure to build off of, they can now build this whole fantasy sort of world alongside it. Persona has the Dark Hour, and Persona 4 has the TV world, and Persona 5 has the metaverse and all that, where now you break off from the structured daily life into this fantastical world, and it naturally provides a nice dichotomy between those two types of things. So that's honestly the main reason why I think they will never break off from the high school setting, because it works too well as a video game.
See, I would generally agree, if not for two reasons. The first reason is that I think college also brings like a typical structure. It's not as tight because like in real life we get to select our college classes, and some days we might only have two classes and be done at noon, right? But it's not necessarily like a foregone conclusion that they can't just enforce that on like your player character. The second thing is, and then like you can have clubs and whatnot. The second thing is they actually did do that. They got rid of the high school setting and created a game exactly like Persona. Metaphor actually uses the same calendar system as Persona. It's beat by beat the same structure in terms of like how you go about your day. Do you want to dungeon crawl? Do you want to like hang out with people during the day? You also have like night phases and whatnot. The social stats aspects, the hanging out with people aspect, all of that is still encapsulated. Not only did they do that, but the whole game is essentially a road trip. You have like the entire map of Metaphor is a straight crossroad country of going or cross country like road trip where you go to like different cities, different areas and whatnot. There's like dungeons like in nearby like those metropolis uh city centers and whatnot, and the whole game is structured around that road trip that takes place over a year. So there is a beginning and end point that happens kind of like naturally because of how they want to tell the story and the type of story they want to tell, which is like this whole tournament to become like the next king and whatnot. And I think Metaphor does that pretty well without like constraining it to like one specific spot in like high school. They just like made it pretty well. They kind of like did some like hacky narrative thing where you can like kind of fast travel between city to city, but in a lot of ways, the way they figured it out feels like to me that there's like some sort of inclination to like branch away from the high school setting. At least I hope so. Otherwise, I don't know why they made Metaphor to begin with. It almost feels like a proof of concept of like taking that polished idea that they have in Persona, and then like adding like all the art and menus and whatnot into, and the whole structure of everything into a title that is not constrained by something that they introduced in Persona 3, which I think at least is like, if they really want to like drive that home, they should make a Persona game that is outside of the usual setting, you know,
Well, like a young adult Persona.
like a young adult Persona. Like I think like college age kids have like a lot of decisions that they have to make when it comes to like chasing a career. I mean, this is not exactly a theme unfamiliar with like Persona games. There are plenty of characters who have to decide like what they want to do in the future, but the impact of like what you decide on in college is definitely like a little bit like, it's a bit more important, you know? And in a lot of ways, there's more tighter schedules that you have as an adult. And I mean, I can speak from the experience of like playing Metaphor myself. There's a lot of like social ramifications, like you as a candidate to become like this next leader of like the country and whatnot. There's a lot of like more at stakes decision making that you yourself are making when interacting with different people to people. And I think they're exploring a lot of those ideas with that game. And I think they should continue doing that with the game, the mainline series that like sort of like created the structure.
The one thing with Metaphor though is like it's a fantasy world.
Yes.
It's like a fantasy story.
Mm-hmm.
So like, is there the same level of like, I don't know, is it? I guess immersion. I don't know if that's. I don't think that's the best word. I don't really like that word so much, but like, or maybe like relatability of like, do you feel like you're like stepping into the shoes of the character?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like we're not gonna be candidates for kings ourselves, right? But there's a lot of the dialogue in which like you sort of like talk about in Metaphor. I guess this is my Metaphor talk now, which is great. Dialogue you talk about in Metaphor is a very like high level societal like overview of like modern day problems. As the title suggests, Metaphor is a metaphor for the real world, right? There's a lot of more grandiose problems that it sort of tries to tackle, right? Although the player characters like politics are sort of like set in stone and you sort of like don't really like manage that. They do a good job of like sort of putting his politics like against like the issues that the world has in Metaphor, which is, I mean, it's metaphorically the same problems that we have in the real world, right? And in a lot of ways, like we're not gonna be a political figures inside Persona games unless they do something insanely crazy. But I do think that the actual relatability of like Persona games doesn't have to be tied to coming of age problems that we encounter in high school. Although that is a very easy thing to sort of like gamify, there are things that like once you become of age, there are problems that are introduced to you that are just like brand new. And I think it's an unexplored aspect in like a lot of media, right? I think especially in Japanese media where it does seem like a very hokey thing to sort of like focus on like high school problems and whatnot, the actual issues that you have like being developed as like an adult, those are things that are sort of unexplored. And I think in a lot of ways, maybe we're lacking media that sort of like navigates us through that exploration, which is why I think, like, in terms of relatability, like metaphor is a little bit of being a politician is a little bit of a step up from being a high school student, but there's like a middle ground there of like trying to like choose like who you want to be in life uh once you reach adulthood. That is pretty much something that I would like to see, especially from Atlas. And like Atlas isn't like known for its fantastic adult characters, but maybe they should, right? Adults in Atlas games like generally makes mistakes, and they generally lead to insanely world-ending problems and whatnot. Maybe that's something that like we should tackle directly, you know, as us being adults ourselves, instead of like having the kids fix everything all the time.
I think we'll
What's the
have to.
likelihood
Well,
you think
I'll
they'll
definitely
actually go
have
in
to.
that direction though? Like they have a formula that like smashes with success, you know, as far as review ratings and reviews go, and you know, how people buying the game, um, and obviously like everyone in generally liking it too. You know, don't you think they would just replicate that with Persona 6?
Yeah, I mean, like that's like the most
I
likely
think they'll
scenario.
probably will.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's like wishful thinking.
It'd be nice to see
yeah,
something
yeah.
different.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I agree with you. I would actually love to see that too. I'm probably biased a little bit because that's the phase of life that we're in now. But I would love to. I mean, we already death how good they are with the games that they have made. So I honestly am in agreement with you, Kyle, that like you know they'd probably smash that too if they wanted to. I just don't feel like, unfortunately, oh, it's the direction they go in. But yeah, wishful thinking for sure.
yeah,
There's definitely a big. There's an opportunity there, though. Like there is a. I actually disagree with like Kyle. You said there is like it's not explored in Japanese media. There's a ton of Japanese media that explores adult life. Granted, it's usually like the setting is usually like you're a salaryman who has to work
oh,
to make ends meet, uh has no girlfriend, no social life, yada yada. Like you're just like that's like day in day out, right?
yeah,
But like
yeah,
that is it's just like a little bit overdone, but I do think that is a lot of I think that is a lot of people, and like that is a big opportunity to I guess capitalize on that, like sort of like provide escapism almost, right? Which is like one of the points that we did bring up for Persona was like at least in high school, it is also a way of like escapism of like, you know, you're escaping from the mundane, like day to day, boring homework, uh, exams,
hmm,
stuff like that, and like you're thinking about like the mystical world, right? I think that could totally that that has potential to do very well from like a more adult standpoint because I do think it's actually very there's a like there's I mean, if anything, there are more adults than kids, right? And a lot of the people who did grow up playing Persona are now like hitting the phase where like they are reaching adulthood, right? I don't know what the age demographic is, but I'd be surprised if it wasn't like a very large chunk or now like late 20s adults. And like that is yeah, I think there's a big potential to jump on the audience if they can do it correctly, which I feel like they can.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's like my main point too. Like we are what Golden came out in like 2012. We're like 13 years removed from that game. And I mean, like this is not even like counting the fact that Persona 3 initially released in like 2006, right? Um, and I think like knowing that that's the case, and the fact that like people who grow up with the Persona series is probably like aged into a different time and generation now. I mean, like I said, like it's such like a proven formula that I wouldn't like not expect them to do high school anyways. But just for like my sanity, you know. I think I've had a good deal of like experience with the series. And once like I don't know they re-release 4 or something, I'll probably go back into high school again. I do think that there's like a fresh coat of paint that like you have to like illustrate the issues with every game with, because not every single character has like a uniquely found issue from game to game. A lot of them tread similar like character tropes and threads that like you sort of have to solve, albeit with like different personalities and whatnot. But my understanding is that these things sort of change when you enter like a different phase of your life. Personally, at least. And I think some of our favorite social links actually come from the ones with adult characters because they're hopefully more unique, you know? Like we talk about the politician in Persona 5, we talk about the dying young man in Persona 3. We talk about Toru Adachi in Persona 4. You know, like these guys got some problems, and you know, I mean, we're not a politician, but like we can relate to like that aspect of the real world as well. We can relate to the mundaneness of Adachi's rural lifestyle after he got moved from the city. And I think all that is like compelling. And I think a lot of like when we talk about like our favorite like interactions, a lot of that actually comes with like the adult characters. So I mean, my personal opinion on it is that like you're just gonna see more of that if you are an adult yourself.
Time is now, Atlas. You should like be the change.
Exactly.
I need to give Metaphor a try, but I do also suspect that like it won't have quite the same feel as Persona.
It does not.
But yeah, so I'll have to see.
Yeah.
Although it did sell like I think it did sell better than any other Persona game.
Oh, hella copies.
But
That was crazy.
I also wonder like how much of that was like, you know, like it's kind of blowing up from the success of Persona 5. Like I want to see what Persona 6 numbers will be like. I do think like
Yeah,
Persona
yeah.
5 is the one that that did blow up and became like super mainstream. Well, as mainstream as like quote unquote as like anime JRPGs can be, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This is kind of a tangent, but I was also thinking in the middle, just like I do think maybe it's like a challenge. I kind of want to try to set. It's like, what are 3 big name mainstream anime that do not have an adolescent slash high school main characters or like main set of characters? I can think of one.
Steins Gate. Is that not mainstream?
Steins Gate is pretty niche.
Is
Let's be honest.
does One Piece count as
Uh,
adolescent?
I think One Piece is mostly still adolescent.
All right.
Luffy acts very adolescent, so I think he can.
All right.
The only one I've been able to think of was
Mainstream.
the only one I've been able to think of was Dragon Ball Z.
But he spends
Because
like a crap ton of the beginning. Oh, Z. I guess he is an adult in Z. But Goku acts like
I mean,
a high schooler.
maybe Dragon Ball itself like became. Maybe Dragon Ball is also popular, but I do think like Dragon Ball Z is way more mainstream. It's like I think like adult Goku is what people started to really get popular with. Although, yeah, he does act very childish.
I mean,
I mean,
Gintama
I can
is my
think
pick.
of lots of acclaimed shows, but not like mainstream popular shows.
Gintama is my pick.
I think there's a difference between acclaimed and popular. So
Yeah.
Uh,
Huh.
my show features like an adult main character who's basically already done all
Yeah.
his character development, and he's just like teaching others, and like going around and helping problems and whatnot.
I think Gintama,
One Punch Man.
but like other than that,
I do think it's important to mention that in a lot of cases, even though the character is a teenager, they don't act
They
like
act like kids.
teenagers most of the
Oh,
time.
no,
Like they
100%.
mostly act like college students on average, I'd say.
Yes.
Like most of these
That
anime
is-
characters, like they act like college students at least.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard.
Conversely,
to
the adults also act very
Very teenage like, yeah.
say.
yeah, Goku.
Right.
Well, yeah, like Saitama is also very
Very
childish.
yeah, but you know, he's been through the dirt, I guess. Actually not really. He just works out a lot.
You don't really see the like the adult like the adult struggles of Saitama.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
like
that's true.
that gets fast forwarded within like the first 10 pages of the first chapter or something like that.
I can think of more games that have to do with adults than anime, honestly. I mean, I'm
Yeah. Well, Western, not even just games. I feel like Western media more so prefers the college student age or older
yeah.
ish,
I mean, like even Final
which is
Fantasy,
interesting.
like barely any of them Final Fantasy characters are like teenagers.
But they like you could just say they're a teenager and like it wouldn't
Yeah,
really change. Like
yeah.
it's
It
not
does- it
like
wouldn't- it
I,
wouldn't
I
really
guess I
change
think what
much.
Evan's getting at is like are they adults and they actually like somewhat live an adult life, you know, or have adult responsibilities, like that sort of thing. Like a lot of Western shows, that is emphatically true. Like these are adults living adult lives.
Yeah, they have like
Whereas
sitcoms
Yeah.
for like workplace sitcoms basically, you know?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Office, Severance is
Severance.
like the biggest mainstream show like at least right now, and like that is the entire point of it is to like make some commentary about like the corporate mundaneness.
Yeah, mainstream is hard for anime. I'm trying to think.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know,
honestly,
you think it'd be oh I was gonna make a joke like, you think
go
it'd be the opposite considering the demographic of Japan, like
It's very
where are
old.
all of the things catering towards adults.
I don't know, maybe they all have wish fulfillment that they did more stuff in high school. I really don't understand it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think that
I think
just
there is manga, but like
There is, but like
mostly
it's
is
not a
manga I
mainstream
can think
thing.
of.
Yeah.
not like
I
very
think
again,
manga is kind of
not
like the adult
mainstream
medium.
popular.
Yeah,
you know?
not mainstream.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a certainly cultural difference. It's pretty apparent. But yeah, it is interesting. I do think I think in general a lot of the vibe you get from media, not necessarily saying that this is what the people think, but the vibe you get from a lot of these Western shows is that kids would prefer to be in college age. Like they want to be like college students. They want to be young adults. Like they want to be a little bit older. Whereas like in Japan, you get this impression that everyone wants to be a little bit younger.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
So yeah.
Mainstream shows that tackles with adulthood. There's this one show I watched called Welcome to the NHK, and it has to do with
It's not
like,
mainstream at all,
oh,
dude.
it's close.
That's the opposite of
It's close.
mainstream.
But like, man, I like think about that sometimes, and I think like how much a failure like someone can be, and I think the whole I love how the show like sort of like tackles that like this guy is like definitely like a loser, but like he's like an empathetic loser, you know. But yeah, shows like that definitely are like a dime a dozen, and 100% like usually are not mainstream.
Well, there was
When you do see shows
I
like
never really
that,
finished it, but
they're kind of special. What? Sorry.
yeah, there was a Shirobako, I think that was like
Yes, I was about to
it's
mention
not-
Shirobako again,
yeah.
not mainstream, but still very very good.
Yeah, I think it was not like not like mainstream, but I do think it was like fairly popular, at least within Japan. I bet you could there is something there. Like you could take that, but like just change it a little bit into the game development industry, and then you
Yeah,
know
that's a good point, actually. I wonder why we haven't seen that. That would be awesome. I
Hmm.
mean, we have the anime about manga, we have the anime about anime. Why don't we have the anime about game development?
Dude, because I complain, dude, you know why we don't have animes about like game development and whatnot? Because there are them, they just fucking suck. You know why?
Oh, there
For
are.
some
Hmm.
reason, the anime industry looks at game development and they think visual novels. And that's it. I swear to God, every single
Hmm.
game development part of like an anime or like game development anime has them developing a visual novel. And I cannot express how fucking mundane that is. Because they don't actually like tackle anything in regards to like gameplay and whatever. They just care about the
Games.
writing and the scripting, you know? They just care about like the voice acting or like the yeah, again, the writing, the like minimal amount of programming that you have to do, and like the art, I guess, you know. And every single time an anime tackles game development, it always has to be developing like some sort of visual novel. It's so annoying.
Yeah, wow, dude, I never knew I wanted this Shirobako, but with games, but now I actually really want it. That sounds awesome.
or they
Huh.
can turn it into a game about games,
A game
but
about
like
developing a game.
not like game dev simulator, like
But like,
an
it's like a
actual
story. It's like a actual story
yeah
about.
about the dealing with the societal pressures of working late, don't not letting the team down. No,
Crunch time.
exactly.
Are we gonna
I
have
love it. Let's see it.
dude, no game developer would let a develop or no game publisher would ever let a developer make a game about developer crunch time. You know how easy it is to find
Yeah,
receipts at crunch time throughout the industry? Oh my god. No,
but
they
I bet that
Oh
game
no.
developers would be happy to make that though. It's like
no.
their cry for help.
Internally, Bandai Namco. You know those guys like fire people by like putting them in like isolated rooms until they quit? It's
I
like
heard about
actually
that.
inhumane.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that they don't have to actually fire them, but they just make their lives
Yeah,
miserable.
exactly. Because they have to like there's like some sort of crazy severance pay or like some sort of tax they have to do if they fire people or something.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
they're like
exactly, yeah.
yeah.
So wow, that's
All right. Well, I think we can move on. Um I guess Akshay, you're up next. I don't know which one of these you talked about. I think you talked
oh
about Paper
man,
I
Mario.
what did I
think.
talk about?
Well, I was saying I think we actually haven't heard from a nudge.
Oh,
Well,
this is true.
and I feel like a
It's
nudge
true.
also
I
hasn't
want to hear a
really
nudge
had
I
talk
know just
more.
like on the
much
bottom of this
input this
fucking
time.
list though.
So if I remember a nudge, you talked about
Mhm.
Mario Bros. And how you played it with your brother when you were younger, and you still have the NES in your attic or something.
Oh
So
yeah, I don't
yeah,
even
that was a
remember.
cool story.
That.
That was a cool story. Um,
I think
I
that's
kind of want to
about,
hear about your opinion on Last of Us and Last of Us Part Two.
I'm
Let's
like
hear it.
And the show
also
if you watch that.
you jogged my memory, and I'm pretty sure I told you guys about Pokemon Fire version too.
Oh yeah, I think you did. Yeah. Yeah.
About like leveling up everybody using the missing no hack to
Yes,
like
yes, yes.
level 100. Yeah. Um. Okay. Yeah, I'll dive into The Last of Us. So I started playing The Last of Us. When did I play? So, oh, okay. I bought a PS3 and it was a Black Friday sale and it came with The Last of Us, I'm pretty sure. I think it also came with Batman Arkham Origins. And I think I played a little bit of Batman Arkham Origins. And I don't know, any of you guys remember Sadat in Troy High?
No.
Okay, well, shout out.
Vaguely.
Was he
Anyway,
in our grade?
Yes, he graduated with us, but I had AP Econ with him
Sadat?
in junior. Yeah. So
I don't
funny
remember.
enough,
Okay, anyway,
I got
go on.
exposed to two life-changing games in junior year of high school. It was a monumental year for me. And one of them was, of course, Persona, and the other one, to a lesser extent, but still very moving, was The Last of Us. And um, so I had AP Econ with Sadat, and Sadat came over one time to study, and I think it was like close to the end. We were like wrapping it up, and I was like showing him like, "Oh, look, dude, I just got a PS3 and stuff." And I'm showing him, and he's like asking me what games I had, and I had like showed him like, "Yeah, I just came with these two. I played like the first chapter of Arkham Origins or something, and I had no idea what The Last of Us was." And I'm pretty sure at the time, because I had no idea what it was, I was like, "I'm probably not even gonna play this." It's one of these like I never even heard of it. It was like one of those like free throw-ins they just give to like make the deal more attractive. And um he was like wide-eyed that The Last of Us came with the PS3. He was like, "Dude, like you got to play this." Like he had just finished playing it, I guess, and it was really good. And I think his parents weren't coming for like another 30 or so minutes to pick him up. So he's like, "Just play like the first chapter with me right now." So we played it, and I was like blown away by like the cinematic start of the game. Um and obviously, you guys know the premise, the zombie apocalypse and stuff like that. I don't know. Did you guys play the like the one-player story of The Last of Us? Just so I know what you guys know.
I know the
I've
I've
entire
watched the
story.
TV show.
Okay.
I know the entire story. Let's just say that. Whoa, Akshay went
Akshay-
super
That-
robot mode.
Yeah.
Should maybe reconnect?
Yeah,
I think it's your internet.
turn your headsets off and on again. Okay, how different is the TV show to the games so far?
So I actually didn't watch the TV show, but
Oh,
I
okay.
read about it and I heard about it from people like Ryan and stuff who did, play both and watch it. I think it's like moderately different but like in some key aspects, but for the most part, they follow things exactly as it goes. Like
Okay,
they
is there?
go ahead.
Wait. Kyle knows the story. Akshay is. Maybe we should listen. Maybe we should hear Akshay's answer. was-
Yeah, make sure we're not spoiling anything.
Oh yeah.
We can't hear
Now
you.
you're
can't hear
silent.
We actually cannot hear you. Check your Discord
Change your
settings.
microphone input.
How about now?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
perfect.
That was really weird. Okay. I know how it ends.
Wait, but you didn't play it?
I did not play it, and I don't know most of the actual story like that in between. I know like this beginning, and I know the end.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay, I will tell you what I know, which is the end of season 1 of The Last of Us. Apparently, season 2 is actually coming out this year, and
Yeah, I heard about that too.
we'll watch. Yeah. The end. Basically, honestly, like, there isn't that much important that goes on. It's just like the bond between like Ellie and Joel. But the main story beat for like the season 1 was just at the end of it is the main plot point is like Ellie for some reason has something that makes her immune to the virus, and then they tried to do surgery on her to develop a vaccine, and
Mhm.
then Joel was just like no, because he wanted to protect her because it was like a
Yeah.
risky procedure.
Yeah,
And
pretty
then
much.
he put a stop to it, and then that's basically the cliffhanger for season 1.
Yeah. You know, the beginning of the game is like he is the first chapter is like it's like 20 years before the present day, and it's Joel with his
Mm.
daughter before the outbreak even happens.
Oh yeah.
They're trying
Yeah.
they're trying to escape. Oh yeah. So that was like that's like it was just a very like electric way to start off the game, I guess. Like very very moving and very like attention grabbing, right? Um and I I would probably the story, I don't know, the first of all, this is one of the most fun games I've ever played. Like the different ways, the way the mechanics work, it's so fluid. The different ways you can like just like I don't know, kill zombies and clickers and stuff is just so fun to watch, and it feels like everything reacts very organically as it should. Um, like I tried so many times to like very little subtle movements, and but there were like clickers there, and because clickers are hypersensitive to sound, they reacted and would able to find me, and it would set off this whole thing that was like so difficult. So it was like the game. There's very few games I like. I mean, you guys know this, but there's very few games that I play that like I don't love the gameplay, but I stick around because I just feel like the story's like so solid. Um, I think this is one of the few games along that like I would say like I had probably equally fun playing the game as I did with the story. Like I honestly wouldn't say that about Persona. I don't care as much for the gameplay of Persona. I stick around because I think the story moves me a lot. Um, so as far as the story goes, though, for The Last of Us, I mean, um, I think I honestly think I finished playing that game, and I don't know. It's the emotions evoked from it, from like the beginning till the middle parts. Like you literally are playing as Joel, and you are going through like him experiencing obviously the loss of his daughter, and it's 20 years later, and he's like this bitter older man that's just trying to survive, doesn't care about um, really forming close relationships. And then because he owes a favor, he gets stuck with the favor is that he has to get stuck with, transporting this little girl. And he's like a dick to her for like the first beginning part of the game and how they like grow closer, how she somehow accidentally saves his life a couple times in cutscenes. Like the interactive banter, like there's like parts where like if there's like it's like hard to find unless you like really play the game multiple times. Where if you linger in an area after you beat hunters, uh, if you linger long enough, then Ellie's character will just walk around and explore the area, and she'll find a joke book. And then in another chapter, when you're walking, she'll whip out that joke book to try to like make small talk with you and stuff. But that doesn't even happen if you don't do that. Like it's like so many subtle things that make the game so authentic and organic to like character interactions that makes you really kind of fall in love with both of the characters. And then like with the ending, when you find out you're basically been well, I mean, she carries the cure, but then, obviously like you bond with her and then like see her as like this you become like this new father figure to her. And then the end with, like yeah, they can develop a cure, but it comes off as the cost of her life. Joel, it feels like he finally found like this reason to live again, and now it's being ripped away from him. So like before you can even like process the weight of what gets dropped, he in the cutscene just makes this a decision to like save her and like start going ape shit, and like and then you're just like, oh, okay, I guess we're going into this, and you don't even know what's right or wrong, and you're just playing the game. Um, but I don't know the wave of emotions experienced in the game. I think besides Persona and like maybe like Kingdom Hearts at a time when like there's I don't think I experienced that playing any other games. It's such a roller coaster. I don't know. The game they capitalize so well on creating really frightening moments that are not just cheap like jump scares. Um, the I don't know, everything flows really well. The way you can experiment gameplay wise is so fun. It feels so nuanced, and then the story mode. I mean, I just finished talking about it, but yeah, I mean, honestly, it's like one of those few games that I was like, wow, this literally like delivered on every single angle for me. This is and that's me. That's just me talking about the single player because obviously you guys know how much I like got into the multiplayer after that, and I won't really touch on the multiplayer because I would probably put this on another 3x3 where I just made multiplayer games. So I would save it for that. Um, I don't want to talk as much about Last of Us 2.
One
I was about to ask that
one
actually.
question I kind of have is actually I kind of have two questions. One is the gameplay kind of like I've never actually seen gameplay. Is it kind of like Uncharted? That's what I'm picturing when you
It's
said
actually
like the
a
way that you
lot.
deal with zombies.
Yeah, it's a lot like Uncharted, except, um,
It is and it isn't.
yeah, it is in a
It's
lot of ways. I like to think they took the best parts of Uncharted, but it's also the fact that like, you're doing a lot of like, okay, Uncharted in like, physical in like attack, like combat settings. If you want to, you could probably most of the time get away with running and gunning your way through a good amount of it. I think Last of Us, you can't. Like you straight up can't.
Yeah.
It's too overwhelming. Like they actually make it so overwhelming with the enemies in the area that like at some points like you really do have to stealth. And some even if you have like you get better guns in later in the game, obviously. Um, but your ammo gets so scarce that you still have to try to
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Like I feel like
That's,
in a
that's like kind of what I was expecting
yeah.
based on your description. So like Uncharted, or like I think Hard Uncharted was kind of like that because you can't just like run and gun.
Yeah,
So it's
hard
like
Uncharted.
Uncharted
Yeah.
with zombies and social links. Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
So, well, I don't think a social link aspect is different. I
one
mean, like Uncharted does a bit of that too, of this sort of emergent storytelling of just like most of the story is less through the cutscenes and more through just like the random like banter that you have between the characters during the actual game.
Yeah.
Although from what I can tell, I do think Last of Us does it much
But
better.
like I mean, to me, it sounded like at least like I don't know how much more stuff there is other than like the joke book, but like there is some element of like your decisions and like what you say matters, right? Like it influences how the story plays out.
for The Last of Us?
I don't think
Yeah.
so, right?
Or it does
Not
not.
really. You can make decisions on certain things, but it really doesn't have any
Okay.
bearing on how the direction of the story goes. It might influence certain like chapters slightly as far as um
Yeah.
like what route you go, but both routes go to the to the same destination anyway, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think maybe I am kind of getting conflated with, and this was actually my other question, is like, have you played or seen The Walking Dead, the Telltale games?
I've watched some YouTube playthroughs of the Walking Dead Telltale games. Actually, playing or The Last of Us made me start watching The Walking Dead in senior year of high school, like a year later.
Hmm.
But
Okay.
yeah, I have watched some parts of the Telltale games on YouTube.
Okay. So it's like less decision making than The Walking Dead, but more gameplay.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's like it's like a in between of like Walking Dead and like uh Uncharted in terms of
oh
like
yeah, for
make
sure.
blend of like gameplay. Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say so.
From what I hear is that like the social bond that you now crave is that you're ready to become a father figure. Sweet.
Well, no, no, not even close, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, right now.
I do think like this is one of like, I mean, I haven't at least from the show like it does feel like a really good type like really good storytelling. And similarly like, with Walking Dead, at least the Telltale games like that was also very like it just mostly builds on like the social connections between like well
Hmm.
it's mostly like the two main characters, let's be honest, but it like builds and expands on that, and it at the same time like it's like crafting a whole world for you to be a part of it actually it does kind of almost feel like there is some level of related relatability in it. Like, there isn't a zombie apocalypse around the door, but like it's something that like people can pretty readily imagine if it's like what if this would happen? What decision would I make? Would I like if I had just spent all this time bonding with someone after losing my kid
Hmm.
like 20 years ago or something, then if I had to make the decision between saving the world potentially and like letting her die, like what would that be? I don't know,
Yeah,
now that like when you describe it, it does kind of sound like that is that does kind of pop up a lot in Western media. I will say
Yeah.
that.
Plus, that decision for that ending was so controversial at the time, and I don't know, it was like so controversial, but it was such a I mean, they did like controversial stuff obviously in The Last of Us 2, but this is like good controversial. Like I don't know, I feel like the ending you get in Last of Us makes you feel like I honestly I think the way I described it, and I feel like it still describes it, is like it makes you feel so empty but so like whole at the same time. It's like so weird. Like you felt like after everything you went through, you wanted more substance. So in the moment, you're like, "What the heck?" Like that's it because the credits roll,
Like nothing
and then,
changed.
huh? Yeah,
It's like nothing
nothing
changed.
changed, but there's also like, wait, they had this like they didn't even have a discussion of like what happened in the last chapter, and like he's like lying to her about all this and that, and then
Yeah.
um the like, but then you like let time like let it sink in and let and like you reflect on it a lot, obviously, and then you think about what like you think about the game from Joel's perspective, and I think that's how they want you to see that because you played as him the entire game, and it starts to resonate that Joel's responses and the way Joel handles the entire last scene actually has a lot more depth in it when you actually look at the emotion he was experiencing behind it. That, um, yeah, I think that's how I'd want to put it. All
This is
right,
the
well,
kind
yeah,
of storytelling that we live for.
yeah, no, for real.
Zombies are bad. You know, like
We just
I
need to find the right mix of well, the the right mix of like this the Western tropes and the Japanese tropes, and
I
then
think
find
I think for the show, one of the biggest complaints was that they didn't feel like there were enough zombies in the show. They were like, because they were like almost around every corner in the game, and people were
yeah.
like, they didn't feel like they're the biggest problem still, and they didn't feel like it felt like it was the biggest problem in the show.
Hmm. I was actually not. I was actually never under the impression that the zombies were that apparent, like apparent in the game. But I had not played. I was always under the assumption that the majority of the game was more about the human conflict. But
Uh,
maybe not.
there's actually a good line in the show, or in the game, I mean, where like the I mean, people, the interactions with people are way more dangerous because you can, after a while, like it's been 20 years, everyone knows how clickers or walkers like behave. Like Joel points it out, but he was like, we all know. He's like, it's actually the people you have to watch out for, like earlier in the game, because people will pretend to be good and then turn on you and kill you in an instant and take your stuff. You know what I mean?
I think that's like yeah. I'm a little surprised that like that was the main complaint is that like there there's not enough zombies like actual zombies
Yeah, that's
because I
the
feel
weird.
like a lot of like yeah a lot of like these types of stories are just like the the apocalypse or whatever. Yeah, zombie apocalypse, nuclear apocalypse, whatever are like devices to draw out like stress between people and
Mhm.
low
just like
key,
observe the behaviors.
low
Yeah.
key, I get the complaint though, because we've seen the trope reversed enough times that we
Yeah.
want to see the zombies again. Like how
That's
many
the cool
times?
part. Yeah.
How many times have you like
Maybe.
encountered like some form of media and like there's like some apocalyptic disaster or like forget about that like when we like watch a show about like mechs and whatnot and the tagline is always like the humans are the actual villains.
Yeah,
Right, it's always the
humans are
enemy.
the
Yeah.
real monsters.
That's the real
Yeah.
monsters. Like Attack on Titan, the
Uh,
humans, they
Humans are
cause
the real
violence. Yes. You see, like the conflict is never like the Titan or the zombie or like the mechs or the aliens. It's always the humans against one another. So I understand the complaint that we've subverted the trope long enough that the subversion has become the trope, and we want to see more zombies now. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Same.
You know, that's what I'm saying. Like, you gotta have a good blend between
Yeah.
the human conflict and then the God that wants to end the world in
Exactly.
Persona.
Exactly. I think we should have more zombie action sequences, you know? I think that's like a lost art, making a like a zombie flick, you know, where there's an existential crisis, and sure, there could be like a human conflict here and there,
Hmm.
but if the zombies are
You
banging
gotta
on
have
your door, you gotta take care of that too, you know.
you gotta have some way to differentiate it from a Big Brother episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thanks for letting me talk about The Last of Us.
Yeah, no
Do you
problem.
think that so I've not been following what Naughty Dog's been focusing on lately, but do you think that you will see another sort of story and game of this caliber from them?
No, I,
Wow, that was very emphatic no.
I've lost all hope
Yeah.
in Naughty Dog. I don't know, they're just they did a really bad job. They were like first I mean, this is more so with the multiplayer. Okay, first of all, The Last of Us 2 did not, in my opinion, deliver the same quality. Um, I mean, I really tried really hard to rationalize some of the decisions they made, and I can't, it's so hard
Wait,
to
like
do
gameplay wise? I thought it was like
story
kind of
wise. So The Last of Us 2 is only as a single player game. So, okay, I'll say this. The Last of Us 2 I just talked about The Last of Us 1 as far as gameplay goes. The Last of Us 2 is the most fun game I've ever played, gameplay wise.
yeah, that's
And
what I heard as well. Like it's so
ever.
pretty well made as a
Game
game.
is like insane as far as how crisp it is gameplay wise and the scenarios you're in and what you can do, and but also it's still being insanely difficult with what you can do. You know, referencing Kingdom Hearts 3, which you can do so much in Kingdom Hearts 3, but it's so fucking easy with how much you can do. They've managed to like create like level up how much like the everything that you have access to and resources and stuff like that, and like the variations of the chapters and levels that you in the situations you find yourself in. Um, they increase the variety, but it's just like still very difficult. I think it's actually a harder game than The Last of Us One. But with that being said, narratively, there's so much messiness there. I think the game is like the way the narrative plays out. It's like almost hypocritical at times. Um,
You know how like
so
some narratives are like too cynical and like too like down on itself, like every single like step of the way things
yeah,
just like seem dreary. There's like no, it's weird to say this about like a zombie game, but there's like no hope, like no whimsy whatsoever. It just seems like overtly negative. That's like how I feel about like the Last of Us 2's narrative. It just seems like so negative, you know?
well, it's like that on purpose. I get what they're going for. Like I read so many interviews like afterwards to try to like I do that when I feel conflicted about like what's going on and I need to know more of what was in the brains of the developers. Um, like I did that with Attack on Titan a ton, but um, so I get what they're going for and like the idea that they have in concept in their head, which happens a lot, is was sounds really really good. And if they were able to, it's just the execution of it was not done well. And I think they could have really delivered what they wanted to deliver, um, if they made a lot of different decisions narratively, and they could have probably I think they would have delivered the like higher quality on what they wanted. Because I think they created controversy for the sake of creating controversy, and I don't think that's ever really a good decision. Like The Last of Us One ending did create some controversy too, but it was good. There was a lot of layer when you step back from it, there was just so many layers to it. And The Last of Us Two, it didn't really feel like there were that many layers or reasoning as to why they made some of these decisions. They were just like, we're just gonna do this because we want the story to be about Ellie now, and we just want to really start off with a bang and shock people. Um, so yeah, and um, anyway, yeah, I mean that's kind of it for The Last of Us Two. They are gonna do a Last of Us 3. I'm like pretty sure it'll probably be some years before we get it. Also, The
Well, I
Last
was
of Us.
actually just listening, or I was just looking at the the wiki of like what they've been doing.
There's a new
Uh,
game that they just
apparently,
announced.
since yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't
It,
realize there is a new game.
it's
Apparently, it's sci-fi, which is kind of cool,
yeah,
but
it's
no
very retro
official
sci-fi.
announcement yet, or
There's a
no
trailer.
date yet.
There's a trailer actually.
Hey, there's a trailer, but like no date.
Yeah.
And then yeah, the last 4 years, other than that, was just like remasters of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how to feel about the new thing that they're releasing. I'm not like there was like some stupid controversy with like the casting and whatnot. I don't particularly care. It just seems well, I don't know what they're going for, really. They're doing another like third person cinematic like action game and whatnot. Um and it's like one of those like retro inspired like sci-fi games.
Hmm.
Sort of like I guess like the atmosphere is sort of like akin to like Guardians of the Galaxy, if you guys can like sort of like see that in your head and whatnot.
Hmm.
But the problem is with Naughty Dog is that they lost a lot of their narrative talent throughout the years. Um, Whoever was the woman who wrote for Uncharted, I forgot what her name was. It was like Amy something. I don't think she's around anymore. And well, I mean, people have heard about like Neil Druckmann throughout all the internet.
Hmm.
And opinions may vary on whether or not you think he like delivers like on a quality sense. I think a lot of his attitude is very how should I say this? He's very obsessed with like Hollywood lifestyles and like the red carpet life, right? And to me that's like I mean, I've always said this. I think stories in games are like they're great because like I want a good story. But for me, I'm not exactly infatuated with the idea of like turning every game into like a cinematic experience. And I think that's like a trend for most of like Sony's like exclusives that are made in house.
Yeah.
Like they want to like create like the movie that like the third person like action title that like you can see like in theaters if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
But for me, that's like not interesting. I'd rather like play like a game and it like feel like a game. You know, some of the most like inspiring aspects of like playing like a cinematic style game, to me was the fact that like it felt like it still was like a video game. Like I felt like I was still playing it. A lot of these like narrative threads now they feel like it how should I say this? Like when you play Uncharted, it feels like you're playing a movie, right? When you play other games, it feels like the third person action sequences interrupt the movie, if that makes sense. You know? Like you're just trying to go like from cutscene to cutscene. You're not exactly the gameplay element almost seems like an obstacle to the actual like movie itself, which is like the fun part. Um and for me that kind of like sort of like takes away from like what makes things like a decent video game, right?
Hmm.
um and I'll say this about like the game is called like Intergalactic Heretic Prophet, right? um it doesn't really inspire me that like the first trailer that I saw from it was 3 seconds of gameplay and most of that was like an introduction cinematic. Maybe they're not like trying to like show too much about like the gameplay and whatnot. But it's very telling to me that like wherever direction Naughty Dog is taking right now, it almost feels like gameplay is taking like a backseat to them showing off hardware capabilities or them having great motion capture for their actors and whatnot. And I don't know, I just find that kind of boring, you know. I play video games to play a video game. If I want to watch a movie, you know, I can go to the theaters. And I think a lot of I've been like kind of on this like downturn in like a lot of experiences like that. I'm sure you guys like have seen God of War win every award under the sun. Not that I was like a huge fan of the original three God of Wars, but man, the new ones was just like I was like kind of just disappointed because I felt like it lost a lot of its identity to try to make it like this cinematic experience where it's like a single camera and no cuts and whatnot. Um, and I don't know, it just it doesn't move me in the same direction as like if you were trying to like make like a good video game rather than like a good cinematic experience. But I digress.
I think there's, at least for me, there's ebbs and flows of both. Like sometimes I just want a game with good story. Sometimes I just want to play like, if I just want to play a game up, I play like, TFT or like Hades or something. Well, I guess Hades also has a good story, but like it's more so focused on the gameplay. Whereas like, yeah, sometimes you want something that's more story driven, and that's like, and like it's basic, almost like a movie. I think like Final Fantasy kind of has that to a pretty good extent.
Yeah, yeah.
Even I mean the gameplay is good sometimes as well, but yeah, kind of like with like 7, I kind of just want to know more about the story.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of
I'm not
games.
as I don't think I'm as like negative, but I do think there is a like a time for both of them, and sometimes it swings like back and forth.
Yeah. I mean I think it's just like it's like one of those things that you can't like really quantify. It's sort of like it's another one of those like game feel type of things. Like, am I enjoying this game because I enjoy like the cinematics and whatnot, or I'm enjoying it because like I'm playing the game. And for me, a lot of like, man, I mean, I was playing Spider-Man 2, and I was like really negative on that game. And I feel like when I was playing that game, I wasn't. The gameplay almost felt like a chore, in regards to me getting to like story moments, and I don't know. I can't shake that feeling with like a lot of Sony exclusives these days. And that's why I think it's like kind of unfortunate because like for one, like we used to talk about like the Uncharted games, and it was like, oh man, it's like this groundbreaking experience. It feels like we're inside an Indiana Jones movie, right? Um, and to me, it felt like the gameplay sort of lended towards that because you were able to like sort of play those cutscenes out yourself, you know. And I think that's kind of like a lost art. Like nothing inside like the Spider-Man cutscenes like really have you doing anything besides like maybe a quick time event or two. Um, but it definitely felt like they saw Uncharted success and tried to emulate that in their other games, and it doesn't really work. In fact, it also balloons their budget, which is why Spider-Man 2, for whatever reason, is not exactly a financial success. But I think that's just AAA development in general. I think it's pretty unsustainable right now.
I mean, again, I have been leaning less, or I have been leaning a little bit away from like games as stories. Uh, but I do think that is kind of like, actually a lot of that is more about like time, if anything, because like it is a big investment to like play the games where like it's mainly a story like cinematic experience, but and also like I think those tend to be less easy to just pick up and play because like you have to get to like a good stopping point in story, or like you have to play enough for the story where you have to like wait for a cutscene to finish unfolding or something like that. So it is difficult. But that does push me a little bit more towards like, you know, and I was talking about this the other day, but just kind of like I want to finish a lot of games that like I actually do think the story is really good and I do enjoy a lot, but like instead I don't feel like I have the time, so I just play like the quick easy to pick up games like Teamfight Tactics or like the Pokemon Pocket. It's like watching YouTube shorts instead of watching YouTube videos.
Dude, same. That's how I feel too. I've been playing Pokemon Pocket for that reason too. That's crazy. You watching? Yeah.
But I do think there is a time for it, and I just don't know exactly when that time is.
Yeah. Did you guys hear my cat? That's crazy. All right. I mean, anyways, I think we have probably finished that segment. Is there anything else we want to talk about today? We are running an hour and a half right now.
I think we had some good discussions.
I think we're good.
We're good?
Yeah, I guess we'll do Akshay and Evan for the next one.
God damn it. All right, well, we had a goal, and somehow we only reached half of that. It didn't even feel
Yeah,
like.
I don't really mind. I think I think it's actually a good thing that one or two of these things can spark 2 hours of discussion. So
I mean, we really just need to pick something, and then you can we'll easily spend talk an hour at minimum on
All right.
at whatever.
Well, how about this? We'll do like a little teaser for like next time. Actually, what do you want to talk about next time?
uh, you mean in terms of these 3x3s?
Yeah, these 3x3s.
What has actually talked about on here already? Did you talk about
Thousand
Paper?
year. I think he talked about 1,000 Year Door made in Kingdom Hearts.
I think you also talked about Kingdom Hearts.
I talked about Kingdom Hearts, talked about Thousand Year Door. I talked about Persona. I don't think I talked about the other ones that much.
Okay. All right, we'll pick one of the other 6.
One of those I'll talk about. And I guess the multiplayer one. I know, Nudge, you said you wanted to make another one, so maybe I'll just wait on that until you make yours.
Yeah.
In case you wanted one. So.
Wait, did you make a multiplayer one?
Yeah, I made 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you still have to make the multiplayer one. Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here I also want to talk about. So, but maybe I'll try to finish the single player one first. But yeah, whatever works.
What about Evan? What do you wait? Is that a Corvette game?
Is that Need for Speed?
Oh, which ones I have? No, it is literally Corvette. Like that is the
The game is Corvette.
It's literally Corvette. It's not Need for Speed. It's literally just Corvette.
All right. Well, check this out. We got Treasure
We can talk
Map,
about it.
Map
I
Store,
don't-
Maple Story,
What
Corvette,
did we talk? I think we talked about
Treasure Map
Treasure
Store,
Master. We
for
talked
sure.
about. I think I talked about League.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I talked about League. I don't know about the others.
We talked about Civ 5, but I know it's on it's on 2 of your guys' things, but I feel like I recall a Civ 5 discussion.
I talked about Civ 4, and that probably sparked a discussion about Civ 5. So.
Oh,
Probably.
well,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think I have
remember.
discussed Civ 5 again.
Because you got back into Civ 5, I think. That was like the discussion.
Yes. And then I realized it was taking too much time, and then I got back out of it. But not to say it's a good game. It's just very time consuming.
You know, I'm interested in Maple Story, honestly. Because I mean, I'm sure like you guys have played Maple Story a shit ton, but I never got that experience because I didn't have internet at my house until I got to middle school.
Yeah.
So
Well, I have there's the phases of Maple Story.
Oh.
There was like
I got a lot to
the
talk
high
about
school, the middle school, high school phase, which I actually don't remember too well. And then there was the COVID phase.
that's what
is-
I want to hear. Because I know something I know something about the COVID phase Maple Story that these guys probably don't. But I also
I'm
I
pretty
think
sure they know. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it.
do you guys know?
No,
Actually,
What?
do you guys know?
I feel like I've mentioned it, but it was like probably a long time ago.
Do you guys know?
What do you mean? What?
You know why COVID Maple Story is important to my life right now?
Didn't you meet Christian on Maple Story?
Yeah, that's
that
it.
was the
Yeah.
See, I'm pretty sure I told it.
Wasn't that's like the first when you introduced her to us? That's what you said.
Okay. Well, I learned
Yeah.
this back in Japan. This
Oh.
was like over a year ago. But
Wait, he definitely
I just
said the
didn't
same
listen.
thing.
you might have said it, and I might have not been paying attention. This is crazy because this is the second couple I know that has met through Maple Story. I don't know how I know too, but it is kind of absurd.
What was the first one?
One of my friends'
was
sister.
also during COVID.
I actually don't know. I should ask her that.
COVID was a very interesting.
Yeah,
time,
she lives in
I'll say
Long
that.
Island. Anyway,
Yeah, we can talk about Maple Story. Corvette, I think, is. Maybe I should take Corvette off. It was like, yeah, I don't know how much there is to discuss about Corvette. It's like a good. It's like more of a nostalgia pick than anything.
I feel
It's
like
a little bit of a meme
Hey,
pick.
I
we
feel
don't
like
have some
we
nostalgia.
should try it out. We should try it out and see if we get anything out of it. I don't know what the fuck Corvette is about. I'm actually interested in like knowing what it is. What the fuck?
Really,
Why
this
does
is a racing
Corvette have a
game?
game?
It's just like Corvette.
It's the cheap Need for Speed knockoff that resonated with Evan more than Need for Speed.
Is it?
Because it was the only racing game that I had access to.
Yeah, I play Mario Kart. I don't know.
That's depressing. I'm so
Corvette
sorry.
PS2 game.
Evan is a
Let's see.
PS2 player at heart.
Gran Turismo 3.
I am.
Wait, is that
Corvette.
is that your favorite console of all
And
time?
then,
The PS2?
what favorite console even mean? Like,
Like just like the
isn't
like,
this just like
the
whatever
most
you have the
attachment
most nostalgia feelings for?
Yeah, but like I
Yes.
mean, it could be the Switch. You know, like a lot of people's favorite console is the Switch. Mine's probably like the DS or something.
PS2?
Should I make it 3x3 of consoles? I mean, I just it's not enough. I guess.
Console.
You believe
I'll
that-
make it 3
Make
by
a
1.
Yeah, we'll just do it for a console.
Dude, my
Can
favorite
you
is
believe
definitely
that
the
the Switch
DS.
is coming
Like,
out
straight
soon
up.
and a nudge?
Huh?
Still hasn't gone. Or at least we still haven't used. We haven't played a Switch 1 game with a nudge.
Oh, that's true. Wait, I gave him a
Switch 2 is
Switch.
coming
He
out
has it in his house.
Yeah, it's just been sitting there.
Yeah, he hasn't used it. But we should play Mario Party at some point. Our birthdays are coming up, I will say. Which
Are we gonna
means
do anything besides these podcasts again? Are we gonna ever play a game again, or are we gonna?
we definitely should play Mario
We were gonna
Party.
bring back those movie things that we did for like a year.
We did like 3 movies.
We did 4 movies. We everybody
I
we
don't
did
think we
every,
did-
I
everybody
think
did
we
a
got
movie.
through. I think we got through one cycle.
We did.
Yeah.
Did we do a full cycle? What was
We did.
what was Kyle's movie?
I'm pretty sure.
It was Weathering with You.
Did
thought
I
that
do
was-
that?
No, Evan's movie
No,
was
I
Bubble.
did. Mine was Bubble. Yes.
I didn't do
The
Bubble
nudges
with you.
was.
We never. Wait, did we
the
No, I
know?
watched
Bachelor's
that in theaters.
documentary.
There's no way.
And then
Yeah, we
no,
did a
you
full cycle.
rewatched it. No,
Wait, did we watch
I,
Bubble?
I'm pretty like I know
Yeah,
that
we all watched
Alex
Bubble.
Sicily's. Yes, we watched Bubble
Wait,
together.
we
It
did?
was, like, great that it was like pretty.
Wait, are you-
That was pretty
decent,
bad,
but it was
actually.
like it was.
It was
It
a
was like
very
okay, but it was forgettable.
It was
What
so
was-
forgettable.
Wait,
It was
the
more
movie
about the visuals than anything.
exactly.
It was just
It
like,
was like the post-apocalyptic kind of like anime.
it
world
was
in Japan, where it's,
disappointing,
like,
you know?
a lot
Like
of
you
water.
expect more out like that
It's
roster,
forgettable.
you know? Yeah.
It was what it was. It was like fine.
Dude, I think my
I
next
definitely remember
Yeah.
Weathering with You. I do not remember this Bubble movie at all.
you sure out it's very forgettable.
Aksha's was the
Actually,
first
it was the
Evangelion,
Evangelion,
Rebuild.
the first Evangelion
the
movie.
first Evangelion movie.
Yeah, I've been left on a
Which actually,
cliffhanger.
yeah, that reminds me. Actually, yeah, you know,
You know, I actually straight up
I
watched
was
all
like,
3 of
no,
those.
I thought we were gonna
All 4.
watch two. I thought we were gonna watch the other ones together, and it's like, you know, I don't know what happened.
I watched all 4 of them actually.
I'm down. Good series.
Yeah.
Wait,
Oh,
actually, I cannot
even-
watch 3 again. I cannot watch 3. That was horrible.
All right, well, 3 is a controversial, but
I need to see the scene, like the scene.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What? Which
I'm
scene?
on a. We're on. I've been
There
left
are
on.
many scenes. It's
No, like
Ava.
the scene.
Are we
The-
talking? Are we
the-
talking
the
about?
scene that gets memed on the most?
You mean the end of Evangelion scene?
No, we're not watching
That's
the end
the-
of Ava.
That's not part of the rebuilds.
Dude, that whole movie is just a scene.
End of
They
Evangelion
included
is
the-
also just insane.
Man,
Yeah, I've been waiting
Man.
on the cliffhanger after the first movie forever.
Bro, there wasn't even a cliffhanger.
Wait, there wasn't a cliffhanger. It actually tied up pretty well. Like you
Hey,
could just stop. You could just
I
stop
created
right
Whiplash,
there.
okay?
You know, 2 is actually very good. 2 is really good, and then 3 was
sounds like
bad,
we should watch it.
like really bad, and then 4 was
Yeah.
okay. It was fine. Like it needed to
Yeah.
go
You guys-
somewhere.
I'm also kind of curious. What was the last anime that you guys have watched? Because I have not watched
Wait.
like.
Blue box.
You know what
Same
cliffhanger I'm actually waiting on? Actually, we marched like a lion or something like that.
Well, that's your guys' thing.
Marsh comes in like a lion.
You guys
Yeah.
never schedule this shit. I like half expect you guys to say something on Discord, and then it never happens.
What is it? March comes in. Like
March
a lion?
comes
I
in
said
like a lion.
We're marching.
That's one of
like
my
lions.
favorite animes, actually.
This is
Good.
It's not. It's gonna take too long.
Yeah. Wait, how long is it?
24 episodes, and then season 2 is also 24.
It's 48 episodes.
That's it, and we can't even do
Also,
that.
yeah. Also, my weekday scheduling is very flaky.
Yeah.
Because I work late, and by the time I get off work, it's already bedtime for you guys. So
Rip.
weekends are kind of doable.
I don't think I watched an anime for a couple years.
I watched Blue Box
Um,
yesterday.
What have I watched?
I do like weekly
Yeah, like
catch ups with
I
shows.
feel like at one point I just stopped kind of keeping on with anime. It was like not even after college. It was like I think it
I
was like two
watched
years ago. I want to say.
I watched the first season of Spy Family last fall, and like no, not even fall. It was like oh wait no, was that? I think that was like summer of last year.
I
And
have
that's
like
it.
a friend that I watch weekly with. That's about it. But like we're
And
we been watching Blue Box Sakamoto Days, and well, we finished like quite a few too last season. Frieren, Dungeon Meshi, which you guys should watch, but I know you don't have time.
Oh, I watched a couple episodes of Freerun.
Oh yeah.
Read
It was good.
all of them except Sakamoto Days.
Hmm. Yeah, reading's just a
um,
lot easier.
I did if we didn't do the 3x3 and we were gonna talk about media, I did uh start watching White Lotus if you guys have heard of that.
I have heard of it. I've heard of some scandalous scenes from that show too.
White Lotus.
There are.
I don't think I've heard of this.
I
I've only watched
Had
4
to resort.
episodes.
I
Reach
watched
the
the
worst, most privileged impulses.
I watched the Fallout show. I thought that was really good.
Oh yeah, there was a Fallout show. I completely forgot.
Oh yeah, the Fall Show was good. Yeah,
Yeah, White Lotus is
Fall
kind
Show
of.
is worth watching.
I haven't seen the end of season 1 yet, so I'm like reserving a judgment. But it's definitely a odd show, but pretty good actually.
Hmm. The one that I know was like also brilliant is just Severance, which like everyone is talking about. I feel
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, everyone
Well,
is talking
I think
about that.
Severance is. I do think Severance is good.
What is Severance about?
It's basically. Actually, yeah. Actually, I don't think you'd get it. Sorry, you're too young.
Science fiction psychological thriller? What the
It's about like it's a kind of like a social commentary about like some like the mundaneness of like corporate life.
biotech corporation?
Isn't
It's
it?
kind of like the whole premise is that like people like they have a whole different personality and when they're at work versus when they're outside of work and like they don't remember any of it. And for some of them it's like a way to like kind of like escape almost of like oh like I don't want to do this. They're like I hate work, so I wish I could just forget about it and I could just think about like not think about work. Which you know, a lot of people can vibe with. Kind of me too.
Mm,
Be nice if work didn't live rent free in my head.
where it kind of
Uh,
like bleeds into my life because I work remotely all the time.
Severance, I think, is very good. There's a lot of. I think there's actually supposed to be a lot of good. There's a lot of good like TV shows and also sci-fi TV shows that are continuing this season or this year. I think there's like Last of Us Part Two. There's Foundation season 3. There is. I think For All Mankind is supposed to have a season.
Oh yeah, I need to continue that. I got to like season 2, yeah, probably. We got to the moon. There's a moon base.
There is a yes.
Yeah.
We did it. The moon.
All right. Well, if that's all it is, we'll just have to schedule our next thing, which could be a while for me. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie. My
Actually,
tournament.
I do need to pick. Oh,
My tournament is on the 12th. So I'm free every weekend after that. I think
the 12th.
Tournament's on the 12th.
19th would
I will
work
be
the
in.
best.
I will be in. 19th does not work. I will be in Korea. We're coming back from Korea on the 19th.
Oh,
I think if it's 19th or 20th.
damn.
Yeah, I'm going to Taiwan and Korea.
this is the first time I heard about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, we're like, Korea's like next on the tier list after Japan. But then I think the next trip might, well, I think we're going to Europe randomly. Like that's it's not like my first choice. It was just like coincidence that like our roommate happens to be going. It was like, might as well tag along.
I see. I see.
I think next on the tier list might be Japan again, actually. We'll see.
Here we go. The elusive Japan trip. Once more. I mean, I could do the
Let me
26.
see. 90.
Damn. Wait. Like, I'm like, how about the 5th? I mean, I could try to squeeze it there. Cause
Which day am I leaving?
I'm like trying to move on the 26th, which is
I think the 26th weekend's probably fine. The following weekend, probably not.
The 26th weekend is good for me too.
all right. Well, I might
26th
be in
weekend
a
works.
I might be in a pickup truck when the 26th happens, but we will try to make
Well,
it
you have
work.
plenty of time to talk, so. Don't worry.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
That's all for today, guys. Thank you.